there's a limit to how much football we really want to see. You can water this thing down to the point where people are getting tired of it. Now, does that mean you're not going to still have millions and millions of people watching these games? Absolutely. But at what point, if you're the NFL, do you look at this and say, this is too much? It's too spread out, and we don't need an 18th game and a 19th week where we're sitting here watching teams like the Saints, the Raiders, the Jags, the Titans, who are just prolonging the inevitable, ending their season, needing to be put down like Old Yeller, but yet we're still watching them play bad football. You can figure out the draft order 2 weeks earlier. We don't need an extra week to figure out draft order. I have a solution for the NFL. As opposed to an 18-game schedule, expand the playoffs. Let in one team or two teams even, and it'll give us an extra week or two of playoff football. I would rather have that than have weeks where we're watching Titans-Jags in meaningless games for anything other than who's going to suck more to have a better draft pick. It's watered-down football. I'd rather have more meaningful games like college football has done. I understand some of those first-round games in the college football playoff were blowouts. You're always going to have that. There's always a chance that a team is outmatched. But I would rather watch a team get its ass kicked in a wild card game than I would in week 19 of the NFL season between two teams that have no business even being on the field anymore that should be relegated down to the UFL. Like, that's what we've gotten to at this point. Baseball was smart. They expanded their playoffs. It allowed more teams to be in the race late in the season and then gave us at least a little bit more of meaningful baseball come playoff time. The NFL has already slightly expanded the playoffs. I get that. I would rather them expand it again and give us an extra week of meaningful playoff football. Now, you could say, well, no, these owners aren't going to want that because, yeah, they'd rather have a full slate of guaranteed games. It's guaranteed money, and it's an extra home game. I understand all that. You know what? Maybe they don't deserve it. If you're going to be a horrible team and a horribly run team and win 3 games in a season, you don't deserve an extra home game. Be better. Get to the playoffs and earn that. It's an incentive for a team to be better, and maybe the morons that are in some of these front offices and these owners that would actually care a little bit more about the product on the field as opposed to, well, we've got a guaranteed extra game. That's all that matters. It's like teams in the NBA that sit there and say, well, it used to be, right, fight for the 8th seed. Boy, we saw that with the Wizards, didn't we, Paige? Fight for the 8th seed. You get 2 extra home playoff games and you make a bunch of money, but you're not actually trying to compete and become a better team, a team that's a true competitor in the Eastern and Western Conferences. Just slip in there and get a couple of extra playoff games. This would allow for more meaningful football, and it would allow for more teams late in the season to be competing for playoff spots, but yet it wouldn't be, let's drag this out 2 extra weeks. It's let's get to those playoffs and have those meaningful games. We don't need to water this thing down anymore because we don't need to have it so stretched out. Listen, we had blowouts on Christmas and people still watched. You're going to get that in the playoffs. At least it's a playoff game. It's more meaningful. You got to think outside the box if you're the NFL. Just adding games and then talking about player safety. We got more guys getting hurt at the end of the season. I don't need 2 weeks of Carson Wentz starting for the Chiefs because the Chiefs have clinched weeks ago. I just don't need it. I really wish the NFL would think differently as opposed to an 18-game schedule because you may think you want it, like this whole, in July we're going to miss football. You know what? I'm not going to miss week 19 in the NFL in July. I'm going to be thinking about being on a beach with a cold drink in my hand and not watching the Titans and Jags compete for the number 1 overall pick in the draft.